guys, here come the dollies. They got fresh sinkers, hot coffee, and the sweetest smile.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Clubmobile. We're so happy that you're able to join us.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, welcome back.
We're so excited because joining us today is Chloe Melas, the granddaughter of Frank Murphy, navigator of the 100th Bomb Group.
If you've been following us on Instagram, you will see that we have had Frank Murphy's book as one of our book club picks for the quarter. So this is really exciting to have Chloe with us.
Thank you so much for coming to hang out with us today, Chloe. We really appreciate it.
I am so excited to be here. So thanks.
Wonderful. We know that you wrote the foreword for Grandpa's book, the second edition. Did you get to read the first edition, and was that the first time you had ever heard of his experiences?
So, yes, my grandfather worked on Luck of the Draw. I think he started when I was in middle school, and he was retired from Lockheed Martin, and he had run their Middle Eastern division in Saudi Arabia. And actually, that's where my parents met. Which is like this crazy backstory that I don't even remember because I was a baby. And so we all moved back to Atlanta when I was like 2 years old. And my grandfather, probably when I was about 11 or 12, started writing the book. And I knew what he was doing, but he always just said like this was just for the family. It finally published my senior year of high school. And he came and he spoke to my senior class. And, I was so proud, but I hadn't read it at that point. I did read it sometime after college. So I waited several years because I always just figured, I knew all these stories, but really I didn't. And so the second edition, it's really the same. It's the exact same book. We've cleaned it up a little bit. Maybe there was like a date wrong here or there, but we kept it exactly the way that he originally wrote it. And that was something that I was adamant about with the publisher.
Have to keep it exactly the same.
I genuinely enjoyed reading it. Like,
we
almost
loved
missed
it.
my stop on the bus going and coming to work quite a few times because I was so into it, because it reads like he's sitting across from you telling you a story.
It's
not like you're flipping pages
he's a
in a
friend.
book.
Yeah.
It felt very warm and friendly, and it just reads like somebody you've known your whole life telling you a story. I absolutely loved it.
That makes me like really emotional to hear that. So thank you for saying that. I mean, he was warm, and my kids never got to meet him. Leo and Luke, they're 5 and 7, but we talk about Grandpa Frank so much and different stories from World War II in his life that they actually refer to him as if they had met him before, which I think is like the best part. And so I'm excited for them, to read it too. And I think the biggest thing is that, look, I mean, we all should be proud of our ancestors and our family members, right? And so obviously there's some bias there because I think he was the best grandpa in the whole world. Never raised his voice, was just perfection, always gave the best advice. And I always turned to him my whole childhood and then in college. So when I read the book again in my 20s for a second time in like my mid to late 20s, I really was like, this is good. And I want to get this out there in a bigger way, and then that started this crazy journey that took me years.
Did you get to I know that in the foreword you mentioned that you got to visit Thorpe Abbott's and that you called Grandpa, which by the way, that part I was crying from the very beginning. When you say I'm here, Grandpa, and you hear him crying over the phone, that completely got me. Did you get to visit the set while they were making the show?
I did. And it was such an ordeal because, we wanted to get over there. I wanted to meet Austin Butler and I wanted to meet, Callum Turner and all the guys that are in the show. And it was the middle of COVID and there was major lockdown going on. I don't know if you all remember all of that, but just travel out of the country, you had to have you know, you had to quarantine. And that
Yeah.
just wasn't something that I had a 6-month-old Luke at the
Mm.
time. And so I didn't want to be away for that long. But finally, the travel ban lifted, right? Or the quarantine lifted. And so a bunch of family members and we were able to go. And although we didn't see any of the actors, we got to go to a bunch of the sets. So we went to Stalag Luft 3, the prison camp, and they literally rebuilt it. I mean, I literally walked through the prison barracks. It was wild. Yeah, I mean, the sets were so big that they were like more than an hour away from each other in the English countryside. So, and then when we got there, we had to like COVID test, we had to wait on set, and then we were finally able to go through. But it was really cool. We got to meet like the art director and different people. We saw this town they built. There's a scene, you know, where they're walking through this town on the march, the death march, and they're throwing like stones and things at them and yelling for them to get out of town. And that's when Callum escapes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And so anyway, I don't want to ruin anything if anybody hasn't seen the show, but it's been out for like a year. So if you haven't seen it, like, too bad, y'all. You need to go watch it.
Too bad, so sad.
But I
Get with
got
it.
to walk that town, you know, and it's so amazing how they redid it all.
We've had a lot of
incredible.
people say that everything was so accurate. So you didn't get to meet Jonas until after filming had wrapped, or did you get to meet Jonas
Oh,
kind of
Jonas.
before?
Oh,
We
Isn't
had the
he-
same reaction. He's
No,
so sweet.
I feel like he's going to be like such a big star one day. I really think
He
that.
will.
He's so
will.
sweet. I met him back in April on a trip to Thorpe Abbott's. There was a group tour through the We Happy Few group, and Jonas was there with Adam Long and Jordan Colson, so DeMarco and Hambone. So
Yeah.
the three of them, and he's just, I can't even say enough how sweet he is. He's just so sweet.
Wild that you were there. I saw those photos and I really wish that I had been there. So Jonas Moore, we finally met him for the premiere in Los Angeles. We met him at this like super fancy hotel. I think it was the Four Seasons. It was such a wild experience. Don Miller, who wrote Luck of the Draw, was sitting at the bar, and then a bunch of the actors were, you know, walking through this kind of like lounge area, and your mind is just blown. Even though I interview celebrities for a living and I cover Hollywood, I still felt starstruck to meet these guys. And I had only seen some of the episodes on my phone because they had like sent me screeners. But it was such a different experience to watch it on the big screen. But we gave him this, and I can tell you this because I posted it on social, but we gave him a copy of the painting that the original Luck of the Draw had on its cover. And so we had framed that for him and gave it to him. And it was really, really emotional. Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
I also love the fact that he has recorded your grandpa's book as well.
My idea.
It was your idea.
Yes.
I love
Because
that.
Perfect.
Why would, first of all, I would not be the one to narrate it because I'm not a guy, and you know, it needs to be my grandpa's voice. And then I was like, why would I want a random person doing it? Not that they couldn't do a good job. It should be Jonas that spent all of this time with a vocal coach and like a linguist, dialect coach to try to make sure that, you know, because he's British, to get the Southern accent right. And I was like, you know what, he should have this opportunity. So the publisher, St. Martin's Press, they thought it was a great idea. And yeah, I'm so happy.
Do you feel he captured Grandpa's essence perfectly? Was there a lot of similarity between them, do you think?
I think so, in terms of their gentle spirit, both of them. And, you know, I really believe that there are not coincidences. So I think he also plays the clarinet. And
He does.
And he could have played that. There was a scene that ended up getting cut where he actually was playing the clarinet or the saxophone or something like that in the Stalag Luft 3 band. And so I was so disappointed that that wasn't in there. If we ever do like a feature film on Frank Murphy, which is something that I would love to do,
Please.
I want Jonas in that 1,000%.
Wonderful. Yes. We are happy to help write it.
Okay, great.
We volunteer.
Sony Films, Sony Classic, right? Like Paramount. Anyone that's listening.
Anything.
call me.
If you're
Gabby-
out there.
Gabby, that's 2 screenplays now. One for the American Red Cross girls. And
Oh,
now
yes,
it's
yes.
Murphy's.
I work at NBC, so they have Universal. So maybe I should go call
Maybe
them.
you should give him a poke. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I should like
it's
go
me.
upstairs.
Just a soft pitch, just, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can be there. It's fine. We can help. Did going back to the book, but was the book given as reference to the show? Because I know when Gabby and I read it, we found ourselves sometimes, what's the word? We found ourselves like a tiny bit disappointed that your grandpa's words and experiences weren't used in the show. We understood why, but Gabby and I have kind of debated like how great an episode it would have been for his description of him being shot down to have been in the show. It would have been an excellent, train of scenes and things like that.
The entirety, I think, of Bremen is just something that I feel like would have been so interesting to see on the screen like that.
So I have many thoughts, and I guess here, I've never spoken about this before, so I will give you guys my first words on this. Look, I'm forever grateful to Apple and to John Orloff and Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg and Kirk and all of the people and Don Miller who, first of all, Don for including my grandfather's experience in his book, right? And I'm so grateful that my grandfather is even memorialized in any way in Masters of the Air. But Grandpa had a much bigger role in the show. His character was a lot more fleshed out. If you go and you look at the credits, you'll see that his name is one of the first. And that's because he had a much bigger role. And his story of him being in the band, in the prisoner of war camp and all of that. I think John Orloff, who wrote Masters of the Air, he would tell you that it wasn't until filming started that Cary Fukunaga changed a lot of things. And Cary was the director and he rewrote a lot of stuff. And that's Hollywood. That's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles. And I knew about all of this happening in real time and there was nothing I could do about it. And so he made some other roles bigger. And, I can't speak for other people, right? And their feelings on that. But obviously we were disappointed, but we were so happy that he wasn't cut out completely. In terms of his book, so it wasn't optioned for the show. Don Miller's book, Masters of the Air, was like the main book that was optioned years before they even started filming.
Yeah.
Option, for anybody that doesn't know, is when Hollywood comes along and a production company buys the rights to the book and then they want to adapt it into a screenplay to make a show or a movie, right? I know you guys know that.
Yeah.
And so another book that was optioned, I don't have it. It's a Harry Crosby's A Wing and a Prayer.
Yeah.
Right. And so that I don't have it. I have my grandfather's original right here, actually. So this is my grandfather's original book.
Wow.
See, you can buy them on eBay.
It's beautiful.
And so
Catch me on eBay later today.
So I know that John Orloff, who was writing the screenplay for Luck of the Draw, he had a copy of it. And I know that Tom Hanks had a copy of it. And John relied heavily on the book.
Yeah.
And I know that because I've seen what the book looked like with all his notes and stuff. So definitely relied on the book for historical accuracy. And, there actually are even some lines in the show that I notice are from the book. But it was an option, and it wasn't really anything that our family felt strongly about pursuing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it. I think without the show, I never would have republished my grandfather's book. I never would have thought to do that.
Yeah.
And because of the show, it gave such a platform to the book. And because I was actually promoting the book before the show came out, the book ended up becoming a New York Times bestseller.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been this incredible journey. So it's been such a wonderful experience. So I think that there is a world in which there's another medium to tell Frank's story in the future and focus on him specifically. I mean, who doesn't love World War II stories, right? And heroes' journeys. So I could even see my grandfather's story being made into a feature film one day. And because the book wasn't optioned, it gives us that opening to do that.
Absolutely.
Actually, I think it's all, like I said, not coincidences. I think it all just works out. Had his story really been told, then there wouldn't be, I don't think, another way to do that.
Absolutely bring back the original crew as well. We want Jonas, we want Matt Gavin, we want everyone back together. There is one scene in particular that always has stuck out to me in the show, and it does involve your grandpa Frank. Obviously, Jonas is portraying him. And it's when the Tuskegee Airmen walk into the bunker. And I believe, Gabby, didn't Jonas talk about this during his Q&A at Thorpe Abbott's?
They showed the episode at Thorpe Abbott's, and then they did a Q&A. And somebody had asked Jonas if, based on his research of Frank, that he really did feel some type of way about the Tuskegees coming into their space and coming into Stalag Luft 3. And was he, as portrayed in the show, was Frank really that put off and, turned away by them being there? And Jonas put it so eloquently that he said that, Frank Murphy really just understood that they were all just men fighting the same war, and that the Tuskegees were fighting a different war on top of the war everybody else was fighting because of their the color of their skin and the times, that he felt no specific way about them being there. And he more or less felt as sorry for them being there as he felt for all of the men from the 100th that were there. And I think I would have liked to have more or less seen that portrayed properly versus, the Hollywood type of portrayal of it where everybody was put off. But he put it so eloquently that I was just, he speaks so well. Give me half an hour to talk about Jonas and how wonderful he is.
I know, right? Like Jonas Moore fan club. I mean, first of all, I don't even think though that from my research and the people I've spoken to, the Tuskegee Airmen didn't share barracks with my grandfather. I mean, that is Hollywood, right? Then finding a way to include them. My grandfather didn't have a mean-spirited bone in his body, right? Like I told you guys,
and you can tell that. You can sense that from how he's written.
So, I know he wouldn't have minded, but we never spoke about the Tuskegee Airmen. My grandfather's stories growing up really focused on him being shot down, parachuting out of the airplane, becoming a prisoner of war, what the day in, day out was like for him, how cold it was, how hungry he was, the telegrams. I mean, I even have, I have more goodies behind me. Oh, okay. So this is the shoe, one of the shoes that he marched in.
Oh my God.
To Mooseburg. This is the actual shoe.
My God.
I didn't even think his foot was like this big. We only have, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
I know it should be in a museum and I shouldn't be touching it, but
it's fine for 2 minutes.
Right. And then a lot of our stuff is in the World War II Museum in Savannah, Georgia. And also there's an exhibit right now at the Atlanta History Museum where things are. But I can show you guys a couple fun things right now if you want to see.
Did you keep your grandpa's fez? Because I know that he brought a fez
It's
back
actually
from.
at Thorpe Abbott.
That,
It
yeah.
is, yeah.
I have a picture of that in its case at Thorpe Abbott's.
Purple heart.
Oh,
Not the
Oh,
wow.
goodness.
Okay.
Wow.
This is there was something called the Caterpillar Club that they all like
Yeah.
belonged
Yes.
to. This is Caterpillar Club card.
Wow.
Little
Wow.
caterpillar on top.
That's
So
And
cute.
this is
cool.
fun. This he got like years later. These are the keys to the plane where he was shot down. That's the actual key to the plane.
Oh my goodness.
Cool, right?
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of other cool stuff. He also like a business card,
Yes.
lieutenant.
I believe Crosby describes those in
Yes.
his book
That's kind of funny, right?
as well.
And then a lot of other things like his POW, prisoner of war ID card, and other things, telegrams that he wrote home to his mom, asking her to send chocolate and socks and spices. And apologizing for being greedy, which is so sad and sweet at the same time. A lot
He
of
wasn't being greedy. He was just.
they're at the Atlanta History Museum right now. A lot of those things are down south, but I mean, it's just sort of wild. I mean, I don't know if I should turn I have in my office.
All kinds of things.
Yeah, I have like
Oh,
the picture
wow.
of them where my grandfather is wearing the fez up there. If you can see, you know?
I think we've seen that one before. I think I have it
Yes.
even saved on my phone somewhere.
I know.
Yeah.
And they published the book also in England, so it has its
Yeah.
own cover, which I love how there's all these different covers now. So it's been such a journey.
Absolutely. I found it at a Barnes and Noble. I think I was looking for Cros's book. And then instead I came across your grandpa's. And of course I knew who he was because I'd seen the show by that point 8 or 9 times. And I thought I'm gonna give Frank a go. And I read it and I was just he feels like he's now this is gonna sound so strange. I'm so sorry.
My grandpa and I, when I was a baby.
Oh, wow.
I feel like from reading his book that like he's just a friend and I
Yeah.
have such care for him.
I found that when I closed the book, and of course, always it gets me because I, go back and forth to work. I'm in Brooklyn and I go back and forth into the city for work. So I'm on the bus. I read on the bus to stop myself from doom scrolling most of the time. And I find that when I closed the cover of the book, it was very much, thank you, Frank. When I
He
was
put
done
his whole heart into that.
for just telling this story. He really, you could just you get the whole picture of his character. And I think, and you get it from the start, but the moment where I really said, oh my God, what a stand-up guy, what a guy who won't turn his back on his friends, won't let them down, was when they were applying to transfer barracks in the Stalag. And if he was going to follow with Crank and the other guys from his fort, he had to abandon the band. And he didn't want to turn his back on them. So he basically spent the rest of his time as a POW without the guys from the 100th because he couldn't turn his back on the band. And I just thought that was just such a show of what a stand-up guy he was. Never met this man in my life, but wow, what a guy.
There may or may not have been a whole scene dedicated to that.
Oh.
With a solo by Jonas. But yeah, that would have been great.
Tom Hanks, I'm coming for your deleted scenes.
We've been waiting 25 years for Band of Brothers. We can sit and wait another 25.
It's not a Tom Hanks thing. I've actually gotten to meet him multiple times. He's such a great human being, Tom.
Oh, I have no doubt. Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that he gave that wild quote. I remember I was having not a very great day. And I was working at CNN at the time. And I think I went out to get like the mail or something. And I cause we still get the mail, y'all, even though most sounds like so old school. Right. But I was walking back up the steps. I have these like a lot of big steps. My house is sort of set on a hill. And I was walking back up the steps and I got this email from this like random email address. And I read it and I could not believe that it was from Tom Hanks. And he said he read the book and thank you so much. And, so grateful that, so happy to hear that the book is being published. And he gave me the quote that we used and he signed it Hanks, Hanx. I died. I couldn't believe it. It was like the best thing ever.
That's amazing.
Picture of my grandpa and my grandma.
Oh,
Oh,
She's so
nice. Oh my
that's so
gosh, what a beautiful couple.
beautiful.
Yeah, she's still alive, 95.
God
Wow.
bless.
Yeah,
Amazing.
she's incredible. She was about 10 years younger than my grandfather.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I've
I
made
think I must have missed it.
I've made so many good friends along the way, and one of them is Dan Rosenthal. He is the son of Rosie Rosenthal. So that's been such a fun experience. I don't know if you guys know this, but Dan's father, there's a statue now, this big, beautiful bronze
Yes, we've
statue.
been following along. Yeah.
Yes.
One of our
Yes.
friends went to the unveiling this
Oh
past
yes, I was just gonna say
weekend.
that. Two of our friends that are
Normandy.
overseas were over in Normandy and they went and it was just
It's just so crazy that like I'm friends with Dan Rosenthal or I know Harry Crosby and I know all of these different people. And here we are generations later.
Yeah.
That's why I serve on the board of the 100th Bomb Group Foundation.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to go to the reunion a few weeks ago in New Orleans, and Jonas was there. And I wanted to be there, but I couldn't make it because I've been covering this trial for work. So I'm a journalist and, it's the Sean Diddy Combs trial. And that sounds crazy to say, but it's like I've been working on that for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And I
wow.
do it. And I couldn't make it because the days are so long.
Yeah.
And going from New York to New Orleans was just too difficult.
Yeah.
But it's just, I care a lot about preserving my grandfather's legacy and that of fellow men. And I just think that things like the reunion, if anybody out there is into World War II, into the Air Force, and wants to come, the weekends are awesome. We do the reunion every other year, and it's so cool.
We'll definitely be at the next one. We've been brainstorming and kind of discussing
We've
it.
been chatting with Matt Mabe a bit. He's wonderful.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And figuring out how we could volunteer as well with the 100th. Yeah. There's just so much out there, which is why we do this. It's why we do what we do. It would be very easy for me to come home at night after work and say, okay, I'm done for the day. I did my job. Right. But this is the one that really gives me fulfillment.
Yeah.
Is telling people's stories.
So did you go to reunions with Grandpa while he was still alive?
No. So I knew growing up that he went to these reunions. But he passed away when I was a sophomore in college. So my second year. And it was that summer after my sophomore year. It was in June. And so actually it was today. Gosh, hold on. I think today's the day my grandfather died. It was today or yesterday. That sounds terrible to say that. Okay, I'll look it up later. Or maybe it was June 16th, actually. I think, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Definitely sometime in June. It was a sad day, so I've like blocked it out. But
I get that.
So sorry, he was born on September 7th. So he died, I think, June 16th. Sorry about that. Haven't had enough coffee yet.
It's okay.
But when I was about 25, 26 years old, I went and listened to Don Miller speak at the Atlanta History Museum. And it was around that same time that I went to my first reunion in Palm Springs. And it's where I met Mike Faley, who is one of the historians for Masters of the Air and who also is an integral part of the foundation. He knew my grandfather. He helped fact check the book. And I met Matt Mabe and all of these incredible people who run the foundation. And I met Dan Rosenthal and I got hooked. right? I met John Lucky Luckadoo, who's like 102 years old. He's one
Isn't
of
he so sweet?
Oh,
I
he's
just
so
finished his
sweet.
book as well recently.
so
And
John.
again, that was
He's
another
become a
great
good
one.
friend. He's one of maybe the oldest surviving
Yes.
pilot from World War II, I think, but
Hmm.
from the 8th. And so I went to the reunion, I fell in love, and I started going whenever they had something, whether they were the mini reunions or the full-blown reunions. Then I started speaking at things. And around that same time, I became a board member of the Mighty 8th Air Force Museum in Savannah, Georgia. So I would MC their galas, and I would, go to meetings and all sorts of different things. And I just really got into it. And then when we published Luck of the Draw, the foundation asked me if I would join the board. So I believe I'm their youngest member. And so I am 38. And so I now attend these meetings, and I try to help come up with ideas for the foundation. But no, I mean, growing up, it just wasn't something that my grandfather invited us to go to.
Right.
Wish they had been like a family affair sort of thing, but he
Mm.
didn't talk about World War II really. I mean, he talked about it a little bit over dinner, and that's how I would get these stories, and some of my cousins did as well. But he didn't even talk about it with his own children.
Mm.
It really wasn't
Yeah.
until the book came out, but then by the time the book came out, it was just a few years later, and he passed away, and he had
Right.
cancer. So it wasn't like years passed, and I was able to, had he lived, I would have maybe even gone with him to a reunion in my 20s.
Mm.
I was in the throes of college and
Yeah.
Right.
getting out, getting my first job, moving to New York. All of this didn't happen until my mid 20s, but it's been, more than a decade of this like crusade that I've been on. I'm like this unlikely World War II enthusiast now. I mean, no one ever would have thought that would like be a part of my bio.
It's kind of like a similar journey for Gabby and I, where
yeah.
we've always been interested in it, but there was excuse me, there was something about Masters of the Air that I guess reignited this spark, because Gabby and I had sat through Band of Brothers and the Pacific, but there was something about this. And as you said, there are no coincidences. I feel like we were always waiting for this specifically to reignite the spark
Oh,
for
absolutely.
the subject for us.
I mean, I grew up watching whatever my dad was watching on TV. My grandfather served in the war, and I never met my grandfather, so I just know whatever stories my dad has. And my dad was 6 when his father passed away. So, I mean, we're kind of limited on what we've got. But we were always watching something, much to my mother's dismay. We were always watching, he was always watching something. And it was Band of Brothers, the Pacific, but Masters really, I mean, that's how Winnie and I met, just online in a group of people that were discussing Masters of the Air. And we just kind of peeled off to the side and said, let's do something. We just felt compelled to do something. And now I'm like, we're on this journey, and I'm like, no breaks, don't want to stop.
Never.
Keep going.
Like you guys that who knows what this will all turn into. You guys should take your show on the road in like theaters, right? And get
We'd
your
love to.
and
We would
have
love to, yeah.
cast. And I think it's really important because just like Band of Brothers in the Pacific, these shows endure and they become more popular over time. And I think that in 10 years or 20 years from now, we're still going to be talking about Jonas Moore and Callum Turner and all the guys that were in the show, both big roles, small roles. And who knows which ones of those will continue on outside of Austin Butler to become huge, 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 right? And what careers will be made. So I think it's just important for you guys to especially keep ties with all of them if you really are passionate about this, which clearly you guys are. And I mean, for me, like you said, each day that passes, the memories become a little fuzzier.
Yeah.
And so to be able to have, I'll get the hardcover out because they did print some hardcovers. And so to like have this, to be able to just give it to Leo and Luke one day.
Yeah.
Be like, and then you can also go to this museum and you can also go to this foundation, the 100th Bomb Group reunion, and you can also watch the show, right? So it actually makes it a lot less stressful for me.
Yeah. I'm trying to find
remember all of it. Like been done. And that's also, my grandfather worked, like we said, Frank worked on the book for a decade. And he traveled all around the country. And this is when you're using fax machines and there's no iPhones and, you know, not even a BlackBerry, I don't think. And so all the work that he was doing on this, it should be celebrated. And that's why I'm just so happy that his legacy is out there. And, you know, for the foreseeable future, anybody that ever wants to buy the book can now just go on Amazon and buy it, you know?
And we recommend that you do that and also join the book club because we're all reading it together.
Yeah, I love it. And there's great photos in there. And that was like a whole thing, trying to find the photos for the book. But, you know, I mean, look, if anybody is really interested, they can always DM me on social media. I respond to everything. And I'm not always talking about, you know, celebrity news. You know, I love talking about this stuff.
Did you get an opportunity to meet any of Grandpa's surviving crew at the first reunion you went to? I don't think any of them were still alive actually by that point.
No, I never have.
Oh.
I never have. The only person I met growing up was Colonel Paul Tibbets, who dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. He flew the Enola Gay. And so that was kind of the only person I met growing up that I can remember. But other than that, no, but I met people who knew him, right?
Yes.
So I met people who knew him from the reunions mainly. And so that was always wonderful. And no one's ever had a bad story to tell. And that's just the best part. So it's this whole, it sounds cheesy, but it's this entire extended family. And it's given me great purpose. And, you know, look, it took a lot out of me emotionally to publish this book, right? I mean, it took years to come to fruition, a full year of trying to plan the press strategy before it came out, and then several months of promoting it. And I went all around the country. I went to the Air Force Academy. I went to West Point. I went to, you know, the World War II Museum in New Orleans. I went all over and spoke. And so when I was finally done with all of that, I had actually just started my new job at NBC. And so it'll be my 2-year anniversary of that this August. And so I did the UK book tour in the fall of 2023. And that's when I went to Thorpe Abbott's and I spoke there. And then I went to the Imperial War Museum and did something there. And I also went to our Air Force Base over there.
Mildenhall.
And I spoke there, and that was amazing. And they also were on revealing some nose art from the 100th, and some other people were there. And so that it's all been amazing, you know, but really ever since I would say January of 2024, I've only done a little thing. Sorry, you can hear my kids.
You're fine.
Great grandchildren. If you want to meet them, Leo, Lukey, come here. Hey, can you introduce yourself?
My name's Leo.
Hi, Leo.
Hi, Leo.
Hi.
Hi.
Tell them what you know about Frank Murphy. Can you come closer?
I don't know.
What do you know about Grandpa Murphy?
He was in World War II. He was in the 100 Bomb Force, and he was a navigator, and
what did you go see with me? You went to Washington, D.C., and who did you meet? You met the people from what show?
Masters of the Air.
Yeah. And you loved meeting Callum Turner, right?
Yeah.
He was really nice, right? Remember when he picked you up?
He's everybody's favorite.
No, and we love Joan.
Of course. That goes without saying.
Leo, be really quiet. I don't even remember what we were talking about.
You're fine. Did your grandpa carry on playing music you know, for your whole childhood all the way through growing up, or did he kind of stop playing after the war?
Hold on just really quick.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're about to go to the movies. So sorry, can you repeat your question?
Yeah, sure. Did Grandpa carry on playing music after the war, or was it something that he just kind of put down and never picked up after
He
being in
played.
the
He played
kept
up
playing?
until he got sick, and he was in different bands. He played in swing bands, he played in a jazz band, he played the clarinet and the saxophone, and my brother plays the violin and he loved that. I played the piano, and I have one right here. I still play every now and then, but I love having long nails, so I don't
Yes.
really play a lot. So no, it was some music brought him great joy throughout his
Wonderful.
entire life.
I
And
love
he always
that.
said, like, if he wasn't a lawyer, he would have been like a writer or a musician. So it's funny, like I'm a writer, sort of, right? But I'm a journalist, and then my brother is a musician.
Yeah.
So I really think like a lot of that is like carried on, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so great.
Gabby, do you have anything else you want to ask?
No,
No?
this has been, I mean, we always say it's a casual conversation. It's not very, and this has just been so great.
This has been wonderful. We're
Well,
gonna let you go because I know the kids want to go to the movie.
But listen, like, I can't thank you enough for having me. It brings me just so much gratitude, and I'm so appreciative that you guys even want to hear from me and hear about my grandfather's story. Every time I do something like this, it's sort of like, wow, like you really want to listen to me talk about this? And it just goes to show it's in Frank stories like these, and stories like Frank's are really important. We're
Yeah,
living
absolutely.
at a time where our freedoms are under attack, and we need to embrace our military, and we need to, you know, without them, without our amazing men and women who serve our country, we would not have the freedoms that we have today, and we have to protect those freedoms every single
Absolutely.
day. And it's stories like Frank's and his fellow men and the 100th and Masters of the Air that I hope give people hope and make you really proud to be an American. And that's really what I care about, and
Absolutely.
care about spreading that message. So thank you for giving me a platform to do that. And I think
Course.
we're gonna have to get together sometime and
Yes,
have a cup of
please.
coffee.
That would
So-
Yes,
be,
please.
that would be great.
Would
I
love
mean,
that.
Winnie, you're gonna have to come out here because we're not too far from each other.
I'm gonna have to get on a plane and come visit both of you.
We're gonna have to
Plus,
get you.
Gabby's not
Last time
far.
I was in Seattle, it was to see Taylor Swift. So you're gonna have to come
I'm
to
gonna
New
have to
York
come. Yeah,
this year.
Yeah.
already on the list.
Yes.
Well, I look forward to meeting you guys in person, and thank you for having me on to talk about Luck of the Draw.
Of course.
Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for joining us.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.